Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament, looking at the New Testament church. And today we are back in Acts. If you've been following along with us, we just went through First and Second Thessalonians, and finished that up yesterday. And now we're going to be in Acts for just a little bit longer, and we'll go back into Corinthians. And so today's message comes from Acts 18, or reading comes from Acts 18, verses 12 through 17. And what we're looking at here is Paul faces more opposition in Corinth. And this is a small little section, just gives a little bit more detail of what's going on um, with some of the things that Paul faces and some of the things that the Christians were facing in that time. So just looking at this, it'll be short, but I wanted to hit it anyways because it's just part of our reading, and we're gonna hit this. So, but I'll start off with if anyone hasn't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and do so. We're doing these daily videos, looking at these, just looking at the Bible, the church, the New Testament Bible, or New Testament writings, and the Bible and the New Testament church in chronological order. That way, we get a feel for how things laid out, how things happen as they played out for Paul and the New Testament church and others, Jesus's apostles and stuff like that. So I highly encourage you to subscribe to our channel if you would, and that way you just get the notifications when we publish these daily, and it helps you stay in the Word and in reading and following this along. So Acts 18 verses 12 through 17. But when Gallio became governor of Achaia, some Jews rose up together against Paul and brought him before the governor for judgment. They accused Paul of persuading people to worship God in ways that are contrary to our law. But just as Paul started to make his defense, Gallio turned to Paul's accusers and said, "Listen, you Jews, if this were a case involving some wrongdoing or a serious crime, I would have a reason to accept your case. But since it is merely a question of words and names in your Jewish law, take care of it yourself. I refuse to judge such matters." And he threw him out of the courtroom. The crowd then grabbed Sothenius, I believe how you say that, the leader of the synagogue, and beat him right there in the courtroom. But Gallio paid no attention. And so what we have here is this was the proconsul, is I believe how you say it, was the of a province, was basically its chief judicial officer. And since Gallio served in the role from AD 51 to 52, this provides one of the key dates used in computing dates for Paul's various missionary journeys. So some of these things that line up with external sources line up with things that we see in the Bible. And so the tribunal was the judgment seat of this particular person, and it's actually been excavated in Corinth, and was located in the open air in the marketplace. And so these again some of these things that match up externally with the things that Luke wrote about in Acts. And so, with his judgment here that the Jewish accusation against the Christians concerned only matters of their own religion, he said names and things, right? It's like names and stuff like that. It's like, this is no concern of mine. There's no crime here. He's like, you solve your own religious stuff. It established the important legal precedent that Christians were innocent of transgressing Roman law. So a lot of the things um, that the Jews try to do is say, hey, look, the Christians, they are going against Roman law, and this guy's like, no, they're not. And you guys are you just have a dispute against some names here and some things that happen. This isn't about Roman law, and so it's like they're just merely teaching a Christian doctrine. So I'm not worried about this. And he kicked him out of his courtroom, and so this guy Sothenius, I believe is how you say that name. We're not sure who he was. He may have been a Jewish convert to Christianity, um, because one of Paul's mentions someone by that name as his co-author in First Corinthians. So there's some thought that maybe he was a convert, a Jewish convert to Christianity, and that's why they beat him. And so then we also see in Acts 18:8 that Crispus has been called the ruler of the synagogue. So we don't know if what happened here, but Sothenius may have succeeded him when Crispus became a Christian. And so, or there may have been more than one person with this office in the synagogue. And so we just don't know 100% sure. So there's a lot of speculations around that, but we do know they grabbed him and beat him. And so more than likely he wasn't on their side if they did that. So that's one of the things we see. So as we go through this again, like I said, this was a short section. Tomorrow's going to be a little bit shorter as well, because we're going to see Paul return to Antioch of Syria, and then Paul's going to do some instruction at Ephesus. But we're getting, closer to the end of Paul's second missionary journey, and then we're going to dive into some of the letters that he wrote to the people that he visited in this second missionary journey, just like we did with Galatians, right? He went on his first missionary journey, wrote the letter to the Galatians. He's on his second missionary journey. And before he finished it, he wrote the letter to the Thessalonians because he had to leave sooner than he wanted to. And so then he's going to finish up his second missionary journey and write his letters there. And so we'll start looking at that as we get into it. But as always, I really appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these. If they're helpful, share. Like I mentioned, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, go ahead and do that so we can, continue to grow this. You get the alerts, you get the notifications, and we reach more people. And that's our intended goal, was to help as many people study the gospel as we can. But as always, more than anything, I appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch.